hit that record button. We got Schelo here, y'all. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to everybody coming out, and everybody that came out includes HPAC, K-On, Money Sniper, 22's iPhone 11, Alfredo, Ange, Candace, Christian, Werba, Darwin Foster, and we going through it today. We got Denise, Donna, Eartha, Ethel, Everything Hoops, TikTok, Fireball 9, GG614, Gil, iPhone 11, Joe, Janelle still in the building with us, Jordani, L, K-On, Kia, Mio. We got Latoya in here. We got Linda in here. We got Los, Lou Rand, Luther, Megan, MK, Naja, Joseph, Priest, Robert, Rosa, Salacia. I don't know. It's one of those, I hope. Sean, Seth Smith, Shamika Johnson, Skrilla Manning, Smith, Snazzy O, Tiff Yard, Tim Torrance, you go. iPhone 9, Desaw, Deshauna, Lauren Bush are co-hosting as well still. And then we got Schelo Doirin. Help me out.
Doirin.
Oh. So your name just, it seems like it's going to be hard, and it's really not. We got Schelo here, y'all. She has founded a group called Black Women Invest. She specializes in teaching about long-term investing, and that's what she's going to help us all gain some more knowledge about tonight, investing for retirement. So without further ado, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I love how you were saying like iPhone 11, iPhone 9, like that's great. Yeah. Okay, so like it was mentioned, my name is Schelo, and whenever I do these presentations, I try to make it interactive, but I do recognize that you guys have been here for a good little minute. So if you can answer, even if it's through the chat, I would greatly appreciate it. I want this to be interactive because I have been investing since I'm about to give away my age a little bit, but it's been a little minute, okay, for about 7 years or so. And I remember when I started investing, what I was initially introduced to was technical analysis and day trading. And, you know, for me at the time, it was honestly pretty complicated, and I just didn't understand that wasn't my style. But when I learned what my style was, which was more so a long-term passive investment approach, I definitely just found my way. And I find that this is equally as important as learning how to trade options or, you know, be a day or swing trader. And if anything, nobody wants to work forever. So planning for retirement, whether it's through the investments that you're making now, through you know, this platform and through trading now, or the money that you're making through your job, like planning for retirement is essential. Okay, so that's what I'm going to talk about. I am going to teach several things, and please feel free to interrupt me whenever. Okay. So what we're going to talk about is what I believe all investors should know, including what it takes to really be financially free. You're going to learn about index fund investing. How many of you guys are familiar with index fund investing? Just like a quick yes or no on the chat. You're also going to learn about a 401k. I'm going to talk about it. And I'm just going to talk also about the different accounts that are out there so that you guys can know what's, you know, available and really what in general makes the most sense for you. And then I'm going to talk about you know, what it takes to become a tax-free millionaire. I don't know if this topic was already covered. I'm sure we've been talking about millions all day, but I'm going to just really break that down and show you what it looks like for like an everyday person. Okay, so does that sound good? All right. Hey, I don't see the face. It's kind of weird. I don't see faces. Okay, so let's get to it. So I founded Black Women Invest a couple years ago. You guys can follow me on Instagram at Invest with Schelo. Schelo is spelled S-C-H-E-L-O. This is a picture of me and my many siblings. I have 5. And one thing about me is I started this whole journey to financial freedom really because I have a goal to retire at the age of 35. So I'm 29 now. By 34, and day 364, you will not catch me working for nobody or doing any work. Yes, I will lay on the beach. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why I share my journey and I share what I learned because I want to have friends who are joining me on this journey and retiring early. Another thing is, this is actually a picture of me. I was recently featured on the Washington Post, where we talked about the power of women investing and the importance of doing so. So why is this so important? So I'm going to share this. I wanted to share this stat because specifically because I know I could see clearly that there's a lot of women in this room right now, and I know the importance of us making our own money. So this is just one of the many negative statistics that we hear all the time. And particularly, I see a lot of minorities in this group, Black and Latino, it looks like. And the average Black woman makes about 62 cents on the dollar of a white man. And when it comes to Hispanic or Latino women, we're making only 54 cents on the dollar. And so this is just like a, one of many stats that really show that we're behind. And what this means is that if we're not earning a lot of money, how can we save a lot of money? How can we invest a lot of money? How can we actually be prepared for retirement? So what it requires for us to do is to step out of the box and actually start to make our own money and be intentional about working with what we have at any income level. So I hope that's like a wake-up call though. Okay, so I like to look at investing. I'm going to simplify this, and I know you guys are pros out here, but I'm really going to simplify this and say that I like to look at investing like it is like going to the grocery store. Okay, so I want some answers on the chat right now. When you go to the grocery store, what's the very first, tell me about the decisions you have to make. What's the very first decision you make when you decide you need to go to the grocery store? Let me hear it on the chat. What's the first thing? What's the second thing that comes to mind? What's the third thing? What's that process? Okay, what I want, your budget, your sales, you're thinking about what's on sale, the number of items. I love that one, Sean. You think about the number of items. Should I eat or trade? That's funny. You think about the coupons, what's out there, what's available. Okay, so you guys are definitely getting it. Okay, boom, Sean said it right on the money. Which store am I going to go to? And all of your answers are right as far as like what you think about. But the very first decision you make is, okay, where am I going to go? Am I going to go to Kroger or Aldi or Costco? Like I just had like the Black urge to add an S at the end of all those names right there. But you make the decision first of where you are going to go. And when you pick that grocery store, what's that next decision? You're then thinking about which cart am I going to get, right? So you got the big carts, you got the small ones, you got the big ones like at Home Depot and Costco, and they hold the water and they can hold different things. You have the handheld. And so each of these baskets serve a reason, right? So I'm going to compare all these steps that we take going to the grocery store to investing. The very first thing, right? We're trying to figure out, well, which store am I going to? So we figure out which broker am I going to use, right? So am I going to be using Robinhood versus Fidelity versus which ones do you guys use? I want to know what are you trading on or what are you investing on? Am I using Charles Schwab? This is the first decision that you make. You have to figure out which store you're going to. And then when you get there and you're trying to figure out which size cart you're choosing, it's very similar to you trying to figure out which account am I going to open? Each account has a different purpose and each cart has a different purpose. They are able to hold a different amount of food within it. And then when it comes to the food that you're buying is like the investments that you're making. So you're putting these investments into your accounts, into these baskets, and you're hopefully picking something that's good and nourishing that will allow you to grow and be healthy. And so in the same way, your investments, they grow. So I was clearly hungry when I made this analogy, but I hope that really sticks to you, okay? So you guys are saying use Webull, use TD Ameritrade, Fidelity. So when it comes to the type of broker that you use, there really isn't a right or wrong, except I want you to think about when it comes to the long term, This is very different from investing short term, right? Because you got to think about a company that you want to be with long term. Who do you see yourself being able to call up, right? Like some of these sites, like Robinhood, I don't even know if they got customer service, right? You can't call up anybody and ask your questions and get your assistance. But if you're looking at the long term, that may be something that is of extreme importance. Customer service, you want to make sure that they actually have retirement accounts that you're able to open through them. So that first step is so essential. And I would say that second step, which is the accounts, is also equally as important. So we're going to talk about the accounts in a little bit. And I just wanted to kind of give that overview of the actual store and the broker that you choose, because ultimately it is up to you, but it is very, very, very important. Okay. Yes. Okay. So Robinhood has good customer service. Yeah. So good to know. Good to know. All right. So first and foremost, I don't know what level of investors you guys are in this. So I just wanted to go through compound interest really quick. When it comes to planning for the future, and when it comes to that long-term strategy of investing towards retirement, this is a long-term gain. This is where compound interest is just super, super important, right? This is what causes your money to grow. So in this example, it's just imagine, right? You have $500 to start. You decided you're going to invest $100 a month for 30 years. And over this time, it's growing by about 10.3%, right? You're picking the right investments, the right index funds, stocks, et cetera, and it's growing at a steady pace. So in 30 years, you would have contributed only $36,500. And you would have, you had the potential to have a value of over $250,000. So, so I wanted to show this chart because the difference between even 30 years and 28 years or 27 years or 25 years or even 14 years, like when you think about how quickly life passes, this doesn't seem like it's a lot of time, right? Oh, 5 years, 10 years, it really is not a lot of time to grow. But between it's not a lot of time that passes, but between 5 years and 10 years, it can make a huge difference in your long-term strategy, right? So as you can see on the chart, you can basically see at what level these things are growing year over year, right? So the difference between investing from year 0 to year 20, at this one, at this example, it's close to, I think that's around 80,000, but so that's 20 years. But from year 20 to 30, right, over the last 10 years, you go from that 80,000 to 250. So it really is important to remember that this is a long-term game. Okay, this is a long-term strategy that that is very important. Yeah. I'm reading the comments. All right, cool. So why I say that, because like for me, I think retiring is, when I think of retiring, like I make money from so many sources, right? I can make money from trading. I can make money from being, from basically investing, from whatever, day trading, et cetera, right? But it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. And so when we don't have a plan, like, the saying, if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. So in that same regard, having a retirement plan it's just is key. So I want to ask this question. It's not rhetorical. I literally want to know, how much money do you think you need to retire? And I want to hear some answers. Have you thought about how much money you actually need in order for you to retire? Okay, 3 to 5 mil, 4 mil, 5 mil. Okay, so I need to know, like, how are you coming up with these numbers too? Over 500K. Okay. How much money do you need? I ask this question all the time, and sometimes people just don't know. So, I mean, there's no right or wrong. Yeah. Okay, Deshawnee said you had. An advisor, cost of living is very cheap. Okay. You're reviewing your cost of living, 40 to 60,000 multiplied by the amount of years you think you have left on earth. I don't think we could predict that one, Sean. But I love that you answered that, because I want to highlight something about the answer. Who else? What y'all think? Age 120 as the lifespan. Awesome. About 30 to 40K a year is good for me. So I know my financial freedom number, and that's it. Okay, cool. So here's a strategy that I use. And this is a strategy that I teach all my students to actually determine that. Because the numbers that were thrown off, some of them may be honestly a little bit too little, right? And we see people all the time. You go to Walmart, you have many older people who are supposed to be retired, and they thought they had enough money and they don't, and they're working, right? So I don't want this to happen to y'all, and I don't want this to happen to me. So, making sure that you have enough is so important. But also, even when I hear people say they need 5 million, I ask the question, well, how do you know, right? If you reach 5 million and does that mean that now you can stop working and you can retire and you're good? Like, what if you end up basically spending too much, right? So here's the facts, okay? Sean mentioned about thinking about how long you're going to live. So the facts is that you're not going to be saving your money, right? We're investors. Our money is not going to sit in an account, and we're not going to say, okay, now I have 2 million. So let me divide this by 40 years, okay? Or let me divide it by 50 years and use it accordingly. That's not what we do. When you're thinking about retirement, this money that you reach is being invested. So that means that even while you are putting money into these accounts every year, it's also growing on its own. So it's not being used as a savings account. And even when you're withdrawing the money, when it's time to retire, remember, it's an investment. So if it's growing even by 5-6% per year, 10% per year, you know that you can withdraw a certain amount and you'll still be good because your growth is still happening on the back end. So here's a formula that I use, and I wish we had enough time, but I'm just going to kind of run through it. And they call this the 4% rule. And essentially what I want you guys to do is I want you to figure out what your real financial independence number is. Okay. What this looks like is you are thinking about, how much money am I actually going to use? Am I actually going to need during retirement? Okay. What are your expenses going to be? Maybe right now you have kids, and by the time you're ready to retire, they're going to be gone. So maybe your expenses are going to decrease. Okay. Maybe you're looking at your budget right now and you're spending about $3,000, but in the future, you know that you're going to be, you want to kind of live it up a little bit more. So you bumping it up to 5,000, right? So that's 60K a month, right? Or maybe right now you have a mortgage, and in the future, when you're ready to retire, you may not, or maybe the opposite. So I want you to think about this, and I want you to create this for yourself, right? So look at this formula on the screen. So in order for you to find that financial independence number, you're essentially looking at your annual expenses during retirement, or what you predict it's going to be, and you're going to multiply it by 25. Now, I understand there's inflation. I understand these things. We really don't know what that hard, concrete number is going to be, but I want you to just kind of get a ballpark, okay? Here's an example. If you think it's going to be 60K, you're going to multiply that by 25, okay? And that will be your financial independence number. So in this case, someone who is and I remember someone said 40 to 60K a year. So at 60K times 25, you need to reach 1.5 mil for you to have that financial independence. That's your financial independence number. And so with this 4% rule, what essentially happens is when you reach that 1.5 mil in your account, right, in your investment account, not just savings account, when you reach that, your money is continuously growing, and you're able to, what this rule says is that you can actually withdraw a safe number of about 4% of your account, and you will basically be good throughout retirement. Like, you're not going to run out of money. So what do I mean by that? 1.5 mil, 4% of that ends up being 60,000. So this year you take 60,000, you take 44%, but let's say your account grew by 6%. So it continues to grow on its own, right? Let's say your account grows by 10%, right? And maybe the following year, you're withdrawing that same amount or maybe a little bit more because of inflation. But at the end of the day, what this rule shows is that you have a lot of wiggle room right now. If you set this up where you understand what your actual expenses are and you withdraw around this percentage, you don't necessarily have to worry about running out of money. So can I just get like a few people to just share what is their financial independence number? What is their financial independence number? And great question, Luther. Like I mentioned, inflation is something to definitely consider. So for example, when I look at my financial independence number, let's say if year one, it was 60K, the following year, I'm going to estimate what I believe the inflation is going to be, 3-4%, and I'll add onto that, right? So this number does take into account inflation, but not necessarily to the T, but as rounded as it can, right? Like we understand inflation is going to happen. At the same time, we understand that your account should still be growing based on the investments that you've made. And again, this is a long-term strategy, okay? I'm not talking about, you're investing and I'm not talking about like a very short time that you're investing. I'm talking about long time. So you have some good long investments in here that are still growing at the time of retirement. Yes, exactly. The market will continue to give you more money. So has anybody gotten their number? Don't leave me hanging, y'all. What is your financial independence number? So I asked this, okay, awesome. 3 mil, 3.5 mil. So why is it so important to know? You got to work backwards, okay? I always start with this because not knowing what your financial independence number is kind of as crazy as like deciding that you want to build a house and you just like, okay, I'm going to go to Home Depot. All right. You go out there and you start buying bricks and you start putting it together. Imagine that. Imagine somebody just buys a bunch of bricks, start putting things together, and you see them and you're like, oh, what you building there? I'm building a house. And, and they're saying, you ask them, okay, what kind of house? Is it going to be 1 story, 2 story, open floor plan, split floor plan? And the person doesn't know, right? Like not having a blueprint, not having an end goal in mind and knowing what this is supposed to look like. What are you working towards right now? Right? This group is all about making money. But if you don't know what your number is and what your goal is, and you don't realize, like time can pass and you're going to realize that you thought you were better off than you actually were. And instead of allocating your money in the right places, allocating the right amount into your investment accounts, you may find time passes and you end up missing out on an opportunity to grow. So thank you for you guys who have shared the number. I see 3 mil, 3.5, 1 mil. And sometimes you realize too, like it's a lot less than what you thought it would be, right? Like when I did this and I realized, I mean, I don't really need much in life, whatever. When I did this and I realized like by the time I retire, I'm pretty sure I'll be good off of 5K a month. I realized that 1.5 mil is not that difficult for me to reach. And so when I do my math of how much I need to be investing, this is where I'm coming up with my age of 34. I know like it's going to take me this much time. If I'm investing into the stock market, if I'm investing into real estate, this is what I need to have. So I encourage you guys to know this because investing for retirement requires for you to know what your end goal is. Can I get an amen in the group? I mean, gosh, I feel like, I know it's dinner time. I don't know what show is on right now, but let me get some amens. Like, okay, preacher. Thank you. I'm not by myself. Okay, awesome. Okay, so everybody has their financial independence number. That's what I want to know. I want you guys to have this number in mind and know what your end goal is. And you guys can look into this 4% rule. The Trinity study is what it's called. There is, Serena playing. Oh my goodness. I can't compete with her. So just, listen in if y'all can. But I definitely want you guys to have that number in mind and write it down. You don't have to share it on here if you don't want to, but write it down and know, because I don't want y'all to be walking around with no compass. Okay. This is what this is for, right? This is what you're working towards. So moving on. Okay, so I know we use a lot of technical analysis here, so I don't even have to break down what that necessarily is. But what I like to do for myself and what I teach a lot of people is something called fundamental analysis. And I'm sure you guys know, you guys are not novice investors, but really looking at the company in a different perspective. You're not just looking at the charts, but you're looking at these things. You're looking at the actual company and the products, and you're asking yourself about the financial statements. What are those saying? What are the profits? What's the management looking like? Who are the competitors? You're asking a different set of questions, because when it comes to long-term investing, when it comes to retirement investing, most likely you're going to be using this approach, right? You're going to be asking these questions so that you can buy and hold for a very long time. And so this is the foundation of what I would say. This is what I would say is the foundation of like index fund investing. You're not just buying because the charts are looking good, but you're buying because the companies within these funds are actually of value, and fundamentally speaking, their numbers have been good and their numbers will continue to do well. So, so let's go back to the food example. Okay. Like I mentioned, we're talking about the basket, we're talking about our investments. What type of investments are in these baskets? So you got stocks, you got bonds, you got a bunch of stuff, annuities. And today I want to talk about mutual funds and index funded ETFs. So I want to know, how many of you have long-term funds of any of these kinds, mutual, index, or ETFs? How many of you guys have this in your portfolio already? Or if this is your first time hearing about it, no shame, you could just say that. I don't have, I've never heard of it. Definitely want to hear. Yes, yes, yes. No, not me. Okay. Okay, cool, cool. So it seems like a few yeses and some nos. Perfect, perfect. Because I don't want to seem too redundant. So, but I do see some no's in here. So I'm going to kind of go through what they are, and definitely want to make sure that I get some feedback from you guys. Let's see. Heard about them, but none. Okay, cool. So we'll talk about it. Awesome. So essentially, I'll give you all the simplified version. A mutual fund and an index fund are very, very similar. ETFs as well. They are funds. So I want you to imagine a group of people, let's say all of us, we decide we're going to put our money together, we're going to pull it together, and we're going to buy investments together. This is the concept behind a mutual fund. And I teach this because a lot of my portfolio consists of straight up funds. And the reason is because this is a long-term approach. So when you go to financial advisors, typically this is what they put you on. So it's equally as important for you. Like, you have the ability to pick this for yourself. Y'all know that. You have the ability to pick it for yourself, to add it to your own portfolio, to do your own thing. And so this is basically what a mutual fund is. It's when a group of people put their money together and you buy a bunch of investments together. So perfect example. Well, yeah, I'll say that example actually. So yeah, that's what it is. So you have a lot of benefits. It's very convenient. You're basically clicking buy and you automatically own a piece of all of the companies that's within this fund, right? And very diversified, and typically they're managed by professionals. So these are people who've gone to school for it. They know exactly which investments to add and which companies to take away. So very, very convenient. But have y'all read this book before? Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. It's a great one. Have you read it, Jordan? Yeah, it's a big read, but it's a must read, y'all. But it talks a lot about just a bunch of different investment types. And one of the things that they say on here is this stat, actually, it says that 96% of actively managed mutual funds fail to beat the market over any sustained period of time. Yeah, it's actually like 600 pages, actually. Yeah, so this is something that, you know, it sucks to say, because when I first got into investing, like I mentioned, I was doing like the day trading and things like that. And then I did Dave Ramsey, like everybody else does, right? Did the Financial Peace University, learned that debt was bad, blah, blah, blah. And then later learned that there's good debt and bad debt. But one of the concepts that I kept hearing him talk about was mutual funds. And there's no shade to Dave Ramsey and people who are, you know, in that position. But when you keep telling people buy mutual funds, it's not clear enough, right? So index funds are mutual funds by definition, because in the same way, it's a bunch of people who are pulling their money together to buy investments, but it's slightly different. And so I do think that, yeah, I feel the same way, Dennis, about mutual funds. I do think that there's a big misconception about, there's just a misguidance, I would say, about mutual funds, because a lot of times people are not specifying that you're talking about low fee mutual funds. You're talking about index funds. And so that's literally, your emoji is how I feel about mutual funds as well. And so just to kind of give you some side-by-side example, just to give you a side-by-side example, this is an example of someone who bought a mutual fund, okay, and they're charging 2% per year. They decided to invest for 20 years, and their starting balance was $2,000. And every single month, this person is contributing just $20 for their long-term, for their retirement account, okay? So over this time, annually, their money is growing by about 9%. So at the end of this 20 years, you ready to retire. Imagine this, right? And you look at your account and your little $20 grew to give you $17,518. Wow, that's amazing, right? But when you compare it to how much money you could have made, you realize that you literally just like took a L. And in this case, the fees end up coming up to almost 27% of this person's account. And the thing about these mutual funds is that you don't realize this is happening. You don't realize the small fees that's being taken away until you look at these long-term effects when you are ready to retire. So I don't want this to happen to y'all. That's why I'm teaching this, okay? Because for those of you, especially for those of you who do not have any in your accounts, don't make the silly mistake of buying these expensive mutual funds because they're trending, or whatever, the ETFs that everybody's talking about, because they're trending or because of whatever. Be mindful of the fees that they're charging at the very, very least. And just side-by-side comparison, if you choose an index fund that's giving you those same returns, that's only charging you 0.04%, this is what your account can look like. And in this same example, you went from paying $6,468 in fees to only paying $153 over the course of 20 years. So that's a whole luxury vacation during your retirement, okay? That's a whole whatever type of vacation. So definitely want you to just kind of be mindful coming into this as you're building your portfolio. So yeah, so questions, I'm gonna stop with some questions. Because I want to make sure that you guys are not like, all right, Schelo, we already know this. We pros, you know what I'm saying? Questions. Let me hear it. Okay. I guess this is clear. You guys are typing.
Yeah, give them a second to possibly type in the chat if they have anything.
Okay.
I think most of them are probably thinking, you know, if we just trade with Jordan and his group, we make more than that. That's probably what they think.
You know what? You ain't lying. But here's my thing. When you trading and you're trying to figure out what do you do with your money long term, right? You can't just like, there's a term that we say, it's like you're planting cabbage sometimes, right? Like, have you heard of that before? I don't even know if that,
I ain't never heard of planting cabbage.
I don't know
Blue.
if that really like makes sense, but the term is like a Caribbean term. It's basically saying like for every dollar that you earn, you end up having to work for it, right? And what we want to do is avoid that. If you make $1,000 trading, and of course you're making it so that you can live a lifestyle, but if you make $1,000 per month, let's say, and your decision is to not spend that full $1,000, where could you plant your money to allow it to grow for the future, right? Doing this simultaneously, it helps. I'm giving y'all like little examples, $20 or whatever, but imagine big money in these numbers, $500, $1,000 per month that you're investing passively. So what would your account look like in 10 years, 15 years? That's a retirement plan right there.
You getting some questions in the chat now.
Yeah. Okay. So what is a good account that brings back good interest for retirement? Good question. So I'm going to talk about accounts next, but yeah, I'm going to talk about accounts next. Yeah. Do you have a checklist that you can share with us to help us select the best ETFs? I don't have a checklist, but I have a checklist of, wait, go ahead. Oh, yeah, I thought somebody said something. So I have a checklist of requirements, and I'll tell you what those are. The first thing is fees, right? Making sure that you're checking what the heck are these fees. Second thing is risk level, right? You want to know, and risk is typically categorized by what the asset allocation is within these ETFs. Is it 100% US stocks? That can be pretty risky because if something happens to the US economy, this entire portfolio is affected. What percentage? Next thing would be like asset allocation in terms of like what percentage is going into which industry. You're buying an ETF that's solely focused on US stocks that are in the tech industry. That is very, very narrow. And so for me, I can buy that, but I know I can't have 100% of my money into this particular ETF. So the goal is when you're creating that checklist, right? The goal is to find something that's diverse, find something that has low fees, and find something that has a risk level that you're kind of like accepting, right? Like you're cool with. And then also viewing things long term. I don't buy ETFs or index funds that are less than 5 years old. I just don't. I want to see how it's performed. I want to see how things have gone. I also check who is actually putting these ETFs together. So even though these are passively managed investments, they still have a team typically that, like, let's say if you buy a Fidelity fund, which I'll show on like 2 slides from now, they typically have a team that's actually kind of overseeing it. And I want to see, well, who's the team? What other investments do they have? What other ETFs, what other index funds? And I kind of want to view that. So I hope that answers the question. Yes, good comment. What struck me the most from Tony Robbins' book was how much money leaves our financial ecosystem by leaving it to the pros. Man, I'm telling y'all, like, I know y'all out here making big money on the weekly and monthly basis. And I'm just kind of showing y'all something little right now. Investing $20 ends up investing $20 and basically picking the wrong funds. Or even if you decide, I don't want to do this, I'm just going to pay a professional, and you're paying them that 2% to pick your funds. And on top of that, they're picking expensive funds. Like this stuff really can end up being hundreds of thousands of dollars that's completely gone by you deciding, I'm gonna just leave it to the professionals, Megan asks, how does a person continue to live off the 4% example withdrawal once their goal is met? In mind, the person would be taking money out or selling shares, or how does it continue to grow when you're living off of it? Okay, so this is a good question. I think what you're asking is basically, how do I withdraw the money? And also, yeah, basically allowing it to, okay, so over the years, as you're putting your money into these accounts, right? The account itself is not what's making you money. It's the investments that you're picking within it. So if you decide you're going to buy an index fund, let's say that has the S&P 500, right? So that's actually like the next slides. But let's say you buy an S&P 500 index fund, and this consists of a bunch of companies that's within it, and it's growing in value every single month, every year, et cetera. When you're ready to withdraw, essentially, you are selling off that 4%. Now, I will say, you can start off with, let's say, taking your distributions. I would probably do that first instead of just selling, right? Selling your shares and pieces of your index funds or stocks. But you can start off by, taking the distributions that you're given. There's a lot of people that when they're investing, they're only looking at dividends. And I don't know if this is if you've ever thought about this, but when you're looking at your investments that you're making, your index funds, your long-term stocks, you can either gain a lot of money through you're going to gain money through two sources, either the appreciation or the dividends. The dividends is when the company says, thank you for owning shares. Here's a couple pennies or whatever. So if you are ready to retire and you start off focusing on those funds and those investments that are giving you dividends, that can end up being a couple $100 to a couple $1,000, right? That you're taking first. And then any earned interest and any earned appreciation, you would basically sell your investments at that point. Because I mean, that's what you invested for, so that you can eventually sell it and make a profit. So yeah, hope that answers it. Are you going to talk about HSA? Yes, right on point. I am going to talk about it. Would you recommend buying stocks with an employee purchase plan? For example, I work at IBM. Ooh, nice. And I buy stock at 15% discount every month with 5% of my check. I only wonder how valuable IBM stock would be worth in the coming years. I get a dividend check. So part is nice. So nice. So with employee purchase plan phrase. So I mean, yeah, it's kind of like, you guys remember Enron was the name of the company, right? The one that was straight up lying about their numbers. Okay, so there was a lot of people that put their whole freaking life savings, all their money, they was going into this employer plan. And just to find out it was all a bust, and a lot of people lost everything. So I recommend doing that for the companies you've done the research for. Fundamental analysis, I gave you guys a couple questions to kind of go through, but more realistically, when you're looking at when you're doing the fundamental analysis of your company, hopefully they're not lying, I doubt it, but you're looking at the last 10 years of their performance to help you figure out what's going to happen next. And honestly, this is kind of lengthy as far as like what you kind of should be going through, but to give you a general idea, I think you should do this for your own company as well. But you want to look for not just the profits, right? Okay, great. They made a revenue. Okay, awesome. They made $1 billion of revenue, but what was their expenses, right? So even getting the net profit from that, sometimes that's not enough. You have a net profit, but you want to compare it to the operating expenses. You want to compare that to, where did the money actually come from? Did it come from some one-off investments or a one-off payment? Maybe they sold a part of the company or a product that they discontinued. They sold it all really quickly at a discount, so they got the income from there. So there's like a lot of questions you want to ask to find out, what's the real revenue looking like, and what is it on a consistent basis? Is it growth happening, right? Am I seeing that this year it's doing fantastic, but the last year it didn't do too well, but then the year before it did great, and then the year before it didn't? And is there like is there a steady growth, or is it up and down? You also want to ask yourself, even if you work for the company, what are their competitors doing, right? If you can buy stock from the competitor because they're performing better, then do that, right? Like, why not? Nobody's stopping you. So there's a lot of things that I would probably go through. I definitely recommend, especially if it's at a discount, and if all those questions are answered and everything aligns, definitely, take advantage of that discount. Yeah. So awesome. So then there was that one question I wanted to go back to. Okay, cool. So as far as Shamik's question, I'm gonna make sure I answer that. So yeah, so just to go to bring you guys back to this, an index is, have you guys ever heard these terms like S&P 500, NASDAQ, Dow Jones, Russell 3000, those types of things. So this is what is called an index. I know you guys hear this all the time. When you go to the news, right? And you see these little numbers, the ticker symbols at the bottom, and they're telling you, oh, the Dow is up 5 points, 10 points, down, whatever. Like, these are all measurements of how a specific portion of the stock market is performing. Okay. So you guys are familiar with it. All right. Bet I don't even gotta go through this. Okay. But essentially, this is just a sample. This is what I like to say is a mathematical equation. So let's say if all of us decided we want to make a Black-owned index, okay? And for our index, we're just going to figure out what's the top 50 Black-owned companies out there, okay? And so we do our research, all right? Our company, just like S&P, we can call ourselves B&B, Black and Beautiful, B&B 50. That's the index that we're creating. B&B 50 is us reviewing all the publicly traded companies. We're checking market cap. We're checking that influence in the market. And we're saying these are the 50 largest Black-owned companies. And when we do that, we do our little measurement, and we're basically figuring out, okay, this company essentially accounts for 10% of the market cap. This company accounts for 5. This company accounts for 2. And so we come up with this calculation. So we have the top 50, but not every single one. It's not that our calculation is not going to be divided by 50, because not every single one has that same level of like influence in the market. So in the same way, S&P 500 did that. They took the top 500 companies, the largest 500 companies in the country, and they created a list. So this is a list of the top 10 holdings. That these percentages do not hold me to it. They change all the time. But these are the top 10 holdings within the 500. So essentially what's happened over the past couple of years, over the past like 90, 100 years really, is we've seen a consistent growth, right? An overall growth. This is why, like, being in the market, I'm not against day traders or anything like that, by the way, but I would say a long-term approach is so essential, because overall, there is an average of around 10% of growth, right? If you're looking at a sustained period of time, 10, 20, 30 years of time, 100 years, we're averaging at an average annualized total return of about 10%. So I'm not talking about, every year. Clearly, you can see not every year we have a 10% growth, but overall in the past 100 years, this is where we're at. And so for me, this is very reassuring, right? Because when it is time for you to stop trading, right? Because you're tired and you want your money to just work for itself. This is the type of investment that you want to kind of consider, right? This is an example of the S&P. This is just one index that's performed really well, right? But then there's so many others. And so the benefits of an index fund, so an index fund follows an index, very similar to a mutual fund. Like I said, it's a bunch of us putting our money together to buy investments. So by definition, an index fund is a mutual fund. But the difference is, while it is convenient, it's diversified, it's definitely managed differently. It's managed a lot more passively, because these index funds are following basically a computer, a calculation that's already been done for it. So yeah, I love the comments and the hyping. I appreciate it. Okay, cool. So I'm trying to read and answer. So again, with the example, let's say in this example, you have $500 to start, right? And this is how you become a passive millionaire, okay? You have $500 to start, and you decide, you know what, Jordan, I love that you're making me all this money. I'm going to take $500 every single month, and I'm going to put it towards my long-term goal. I'm going to put it towards retirement, right? Or maybe you're, a high roller, you decide that you can put $1,500, $2,000 towards your long-term goal. And so every month you're contributing towards your investment accounts. Okay. So I'm gonna go through the examples of the different accounts next. I think I'm kind of running out of time. You got somebody next, Jordan? Yeah. Wait, hold on.
Yeah, I do, but I told them you was like VIP, status. So
I accept it. So yeah, just imagine yourself as you're making your money, right? Because again, you don't work for every dollar, but rather you want some of that money to work for you. So you're putting aside, in this example, only $500 a month for 30 years. I know what you're thinking. I don't want to be working for 30 years. Great. Now put more money so that you can reach your goal a lot sooner. Okay. But I'm gonna keep it simple because a lot of us do have day jobs, and a lot of us do end up working for 25, 30 plus years. So over time, just putting this little bit amount of money aside and investing it into these funds that are giving you 10%, et cetera, it has the potential to grow to $1 million in 30 years. And so, so depending on the account that you choose, this can be 100% tax-free, okay? Remember I talked about the baskets, okay? So we already picked that we going to, where we going? We're going to Walmart? Nah, we're going to Whole Foods, right? Okay, so we already picked, we decided we're picking the best quality broker for ourselves. And we now understand the type of foods that's going to go in there. We know, okay, index funds make sense. Maybe not mutual funds, ETFs make sense. These individual stocks that we're picking, our company stock, et cetera, makes sense. So we know the food that's in there. And now as we're figuring that, we got our list, whatever, as we're figuring out the basket to choose, we want to think about things like this. Do I want to pay taxes now to the system, or do I want to pay taxes later? There's an account called a Roth IRA, which we're going to go through. And if you're putting this money, this $500 a month into this Roth, by the time this retirement comes in 30 years, this will be completely tax-free. Not even joking. You withdraw your money, you don't owe nobody nothing. So there's a lot of power in knowledge, really, and understanding which direction to take. So this is just a screenshot of an index fund. It's one of my favorite, FXAIX with Fidelity. There is, I think, you guys, I seen something on the chat. Hold on, let me pull it back up. Yes, VTI is another index. Like there's so many different, there's literally thousands of index funds, by the way. So, and ETFs. So there's so many to choose from. Use a checklist that I shared as far as your criteria, and that will help guide you. But this is essentially like a primary example of it. In this example right here towards the middle, oh, I got to talk fast. In this example, this is showing you on the screen, if I just put $10,000 into this 10 years ago, where would my money be today? Right? And so this is a screenshot actually from April. So it's been a little minute, but from April of 2012 to April of 2022, this is showing you I ain't do nothing with my money. I just dropped it in and I just let it grow. And in this example, it grew from 10K to 36K, completely passive. So, so yeah, there's a lot of power in this passive investment approach and a lot of importance towards your retirement planning. Don't talk fast. Okay, I'm gonna come back. So here's a few examples for you guys if you are looking into index funds, okay, as far as like how to find them, size, currency, sector, etc. So I'm going to quickly talk about investment accounts. I wish I had a little bit more time, but here's a few examples that I'm just going to quickly go through. You have your employer sponsored account. I beg y'all, if y'all have employers who are offering you money, please do not miss out on this. This is an opportunity for you to get free money. Sometimes your company will tell you, if you put $1,000 in, we'll give you 500, and it's going into the stock market. So please make sure you know what your employer is offering, because this is literally like your only chance to make free money. Okay, I don't know how else to say that. And then another type to consider, right? So I know you guys have your probably like your taxable brokerage account that you guys are trading off of. When you're thinking about retirement, it's either going to be your 401k, which you definitely want to take advantage of first, or you're going to get something called an individual retirement account. The IRA is either going to be traditional or Roth. Traditional is basically saying, I'm going to take a tax benefit today, and I'm not going to pay taxes on the money today, but I'll pay taxes later when I'm ready to withdraw at retirement age. So let's say you're 60 years old, you're ready to start taking money from this account. The money that you take, that's what you pay, and that's when you pay taxes at that time. So it can really benefit you if you're trying to reduce your taxable income today. But the one that's probably the most common, if you qualify for this, because there is an income requirement, is a Roth IRA. So it's basically you are paying taxes today on your money, and this money can grow into whatever, like you can contribute a maximum of 6,000 right now. So this 6,000 can literally grow with the right investments, let's say to $6 million. And by the time you're ready to retire, you do not pay taxes on that $6 million. If you buy the perfect company and this company started at $10 and grew into $1,000 and you just made a crap ton of money, you do not pay taxes on this money ever again. So earlier, someone asked, Shamika asked about which accounts to open up to give you the highest interest, but it's not about the accounts that give you the money, it's the actual investments that go into it. However, you want to be mindful of which account you're opening because, as you can see, there's going to be different tax implications. And so if later on you pay taxes, right, then you may end up finding yourself paying more taxes than you would have. If you pay your taxes later on, you may find that it would have been better for you to just take the bullet and basically pay taxes today. So these are the type of things that you want to kind of pay attention to. So question, what if your job doesn't match your 401k? Should you still take it? I think you should take it because it reduces your taxable income. That would be the primary reason why you would. However, you can contribute up to $20,500. So you can give that amount. But I think that first and foremost, an account like this is probably going to be the most tax beneficial. I mean, you talk to a CPA, of course, that's probably the best thing you can do. But I would assume that like a Roth or a traditional really, but a Roth IRA can basically help you the most today. If that makes sense. Okay. And then, so let's say you max out your Roth and then you max out your HSA, right? Then you can go into the 401k. So with 401k, real quick, you also have a Roth version of it that may be available. So if your employer offers a 401k, but they don't match, but they got a Roth version, that may be something you want to consider. I see questions rolling in. Okay, cool. Now an HSA. So HSA is an account that a lot of people don't realize you can use towards investing. Did y'all know that you can actually invest towards this? A health savings account, it's different from an FSA. And oftentimes you'll find that your job may offer either one. And I know that the enrollment period is probably about to open now. If not, it's already open or whatever. But basically, if you have the choice to choose either one, as an investor, it would probably make the most sense for you to choose an HSA. Why? Because your money doesn't have to just sit there. These accounts are set up where you can reduce your taxable income from it, and you can take that money and you can buy, health related things, anything from contacts to LASIK eye surgery to medication to whatever, right? And you're not paying taxes on it. But let's say if you are, and the maximum, as you can see, is $3,650 for an individual. So let's say if you max it out and you put $3,650 this year into your account, but you only really need $1,000 worth of expenses, right? An FSA would have put you in a point where you have to spend it. If you don't use it, you lose it. But with an HSA, you have the choice to invest your money in there. Sometimes they'll have a minimum. They say, as long as you have $1,000, anything else you can invest. And so, this is a great, this is a very unique account, because one thing that I do is I save my receipts so that, because I don't really have too many medical expenses, and maybe your case is different. So, really think about this, but I save my little receipts. And I know that in the future, if it's like, I'd rather invest my money now and allow it to grow, because in the future, even if it's 15 years later, I could turn back and say, hey, here's my receipt from 2022 when I bought glasses for $400. And what will happen is, boom, they will distribute that money right to me. So it's not a hassle, right? I show my receipt, they send me my $400. That will be beneficial for me when I'm looking to use it as an income. Okay. We were talking about how, we're withdrawing our money. If I don't want to sell my stocks when I'm retired and I'm trying to figure out what other ways can I take my money that I've earned, right? If I don't want to sell my stocks, let's say in my 401k, then I can turn around and sell the ones in my HSA. If I don't want to sell my stocks in my IRA or my taxable brokerage and these long-term, whatever it may be, like I can use my HSA and kind of go down the list of different accounts that I'm withdrawing from. So this is a very unique account. This is also one of those things that when in 2023, you can't say, oh, my bad, I forgot to use it. Let me put money in it now. No, you miss your chance, you miss it. And I don't want you to miss this because it's going to be an extremely beneficial account to use towards your retirement. I know I'm dropping a lot in a very short period of time. Okay. Totally get that. And I want you guys to retain the knowledge. I have my little example, whatever, and I want y'all to retain it, but I'm going to be respectful of y'all time. And I'm going to invite you to join Black Women Invest. I have a Facebook group with over 12,000 Black women in there. If you identify as a Black woman, you are more than welcome to join. You can literally type in Black Women Invest. It looks just like this, and you will see me all up in there. And I have events. This summer, I actually had a brunch tour, and I had it in Miami, Atlanta, Dallas, and Houston. It was fantastic. And I had over 160 women came out. I had guest speakers, etc. I also have a lot of webinars and classes that are both free and paid. I have an academy. As you can see, you can hop onto blackwomeninvest.com/academy. If you join this academy today, okay, what I will give you is a complimentary one-on-one session with me. I know everybody's situation is very unique. Maybe you have more questions regarding your 401k or whatever your situation is. I am not a financial advisor, which is great because I'm not going to sell you no investments. I'm not going to tell you buy this versus that. But my focus is to educate you. So I will provide you with the understanding of what you're buying, and I will help you to create that long-term plan for yourself. And so in this academy, it's not just stock investing. I actually, my whole career is actually built off of real estate investing. And so I teach about how you can create that well-rounded portfolio for yourself. So this is the link. You can join whenever you want. And in addition to that, you can join our Facebook group. So I know I have questions. So definitely, yes. Yes to the sisters in this group, okay? So please drop the questions. Jordan, do I have time to answer questions? Like 5 minutes?
Yeah, I just hit up the next guy to make sure he's ready. He hasn't responded yet, so go ahead.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yes, Eartha, you gonna join? Yes. So with the academy, I have either the monthly option, which is completely dependent on your pace, right? We meet on a monthly basis with the monthly option. And then you also have access to the academy. It's a drip academy. Or if you go for the full academy, it's $1,000. You pay it one time, you have access for the full year, and you can jump in at any of our sessions. We meet 3 times a month, but the academy, you get full access to it right away. So, but either way, if you're a Black woman and you're in this, even if you're a Hispanic woman, honestly, it's pretty diverse in there too. So if you identify as a Black woman, let me say that, please join this Facebook group. We are constantly talking, sharing, asking questions. This is your safe space, okay, to come and live your luxurious life and talk about money. And, it's all sisters in here. All right. So I appreciate those who are joining. Thank you so much, Angel, maybe, for saying that. Yes, you need to enroll in a high deductible health plan. And that's the thing, like, yeah, not everybody is going to qualify, and not everybody's job actually gives you, the option for that and stuff. So yeah, definitely think about what your expenses are. Thank you for commenting that. So underrated. You are right. Yes, thank you for sharing the link. I love the love right now, y'all. Yeah, HSA is it's a great one. I feel like that was a game changer for me. Awesome. Okay, so I'm scrolling back up just to make sure I did not miss any questions. Oh, should you take the test? Oh, what if your employer offers both? I'm guessing you're talking about both Roth and the traditional 401k. Should you take both? That is completely dependent on your age and your time for retirement. And I say that because if you do the math, it may actually not make sense, especially if you're like closer to retirement. It may actually not make sense for you to get a Roth and and basically pay for the taxes now, right? It may just make the most sense for you to pay it later. There's a lot of reasons why you may want to reduce your taxable income. And there may be reasons why you don't, right? Maybe you're trying to buy a house next year and you kind of want to think about these things. How much do you, how do you kind of balance that out? So I would say that that's a very personal question, but it literally is going to require for you to do a lot of tedious work. What I do at my young age, and because I have different streams of income, I'm comfortable with doing my Roth 401k. When I saw that option was presented, for me, it was a no-brainer because I'm young and because I have some time towards retirement. And even when I reach 35, I still can, basically I still have time, right? Let's say if God forbid it's not 35 and it's 45, I still have time for that account to grow. So I hope that answers the question, but that really does depend on your timeline more than anything, I would say. Then you can use your HSA funds to invest in dividends. Yeah. Definitely not financial advice. Thank you for commenting that. One thing I love about an HSA, and I love that we're on this topic too, is that this is the only account that you can grow your money tax-free, okay? At the beginning and the end, you are not paying taxes. So it reduces your taxable income today. If you're a family, that 7,300 can really help, right? To reduce your taxable income today. And then at the other end, as you're investing, you don't pay taxes on those investments. So that's phenomenal, really. Yeah, great. I love how experienced everybody is in here and how active. So if we don't have any more questions, I'm still scrolling through. We can end this. Jordan, you got your other person coming in?
Yes, they are ready.
Thank you for being patient, whoever this person is.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you again. Appreciate you. And
Yeah, you're welcome.
all those Black women, go hop in that group. Tons of information, tons of learning. And the community, the big thing that we always push is the fact that you're not in this by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
It's so much knowledge, so many people, and anything you want to know, you can find out because you connected to folks. And if I don't know, just like if you ask me something and I don't know, I can, hey, so we got people. So appreciate you again. Send me any information you want me to put in the group. I'm gonna post the recordings in the group. I'm gonna post everybody's links and anything you want me to share. So